Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Qiren, a graduate student studied in Imperial State University. My major is TESOL program, that is teachers of English to speakers of other languages. So my job is to teach students who are not native English speakers to teach them how to speak English, how to use English. Today, I would like to give you a presentation about phonological challenges and strategies for Chinese learners of English. This presentation includes two parts. One is the literature review, and the other is the actual research conducted by myself. After that, I would like to give you a critical and reflective discussion about the presentation. Now, first, let me explain why I selected this topic. According to British Council, it is estimated that about 1.75 billion people are currently speaking and using English over the world, and by 2020, there will be 2 billion people to use English or to learn to use English. Among these people, millions of Chinese are learning English. However, Monk point that some Chinese still have troubles in English pronunciation, even after they've been in the United States for a long time. According to the Godwin, pronunciation is considered very important. Good pronunciation results in successful communication. Thus, it's enabling people to get a message across more effectively. However, in China, most English speakers ignore the teaching of pronunciation. So, in this presentation, I'm going to explore what kind of phonological problems Chinese students have when they are learning English, and to find some effective ways to help learners to improve their phonological problems. And from this chart, we can see that it shows top 10 Chinese students study abroad destination, and we can know the the top one is the United States. There are about 23.4% of students are learning English in United States. So this phenomenon in United States is very typical. The literature review. The literature review mainly focuses on discussing phonological problems that Chinese students usually have, but it will also provide a reshape where problematic phonological features are reviewed from general to a specific areas pertinent to this research. They will follow the three questions. One is, what are some problematical phonological features acquired by English learners? Second is, what are some problematical phonological features acquired by Asian students of English learners? And the last one is, what are some problematical phonological features acquired by Chinese students of English learners? Let me look at the first question. What are some problematic phological features acquired by English learners? I would like to give you three examples. One is Albanian speakers, the second is French speakers, and the third is Spanish speakers. Phonological differences between foreign languages and English include differences in articulation, rhythm, and intonation. With respect to articulation, it determines which vowels and consonants do not exist in the first language and which ones are simplified, pronounced differently. From the phonetic and phonological standpoint, the Albino learners usually face difficulty in two areas. One is speech production, which articulators to use how to pronounce which speech sound and how to pattern speech sounds to convey meaning. And second, in speech perception, including how to receive which speech sounds to perceive meaning. For French speakers, who have one big problem is the length of the sound. For example, I, U, E are all longer than the similar French sound. On the contrary, many French learners have a problem with the shortness of certain sounds, like I, U, and especially schwa, a. And for Spanish speakers, as there are many differences in consonant and vowels between English and Spanish, they are easy to have problems of pronunciation. For example, students may pronounce chimera as chimera because they cannot distinguish ch and sh. There are still many phonological problems for English learners in other countries, and there are strong evidence to illustrate that adult language learners cannot achieve native-like phonology in their second language, and attribute the failure principally to language transfer and age-dependent factors. For example, Scoville maintains that no adult ever achieves native-like pronunciation in a second language. And I think this concept is easy to understand as we are all the educators. We know that there is a concept called fossilization, which refers to students after he passed a certain period. It is hard for him to pronounce like a native English speaker. So this is why the second language learners always have the problems about the phonological. Second question is, what are some problematic phonological features acquired by Asian students of English learners? If we compare the Asian languages and English regarding the articulation of the consonant, it can be definitely seen that there are many articulatory differences between the two languages. For Korea, the consonants not existing in Korea are as follows, like b, d, g, f, v, and so on. So Korean learners will have phonological problems on this consonant. Another problem is when Korean learners are attempting to pronounce English, they are unable to discriminate those English alphonic sounds. One more thing is the disagreement between the spelling and the pronunciation of the sound due to the lack of understanding of English pronunciation. It is easy for English people who are native speakers. When we show them a card, there are some words. They can easily to read it because they know the rules. It is the innate ability. But for our non-native speakers, it is hard because we have to remember their rules, and the rules are always diversity and will change according to the different environment. In addition, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean speakers tend to drop glottalids or add a vowel to the English words with the ending of t, d, s, l, g, and so on. For instance, they may pronounce college as collegey or church as a churchy. These problematic phonological features that Asian speakers acquired illustrate that Asian students have more phonological issues in consonants that do not exist in their home languages. And the last one is what are some problematic phonological features acquired by Chinese students of English learners. The phonological system of Chinese is very different from the English one. According to Chang, some English phonemes do not have Chinese counterparts and hard to learn. Others resemble Chinese phonemes, but are not identical to them in pronunciation, and this causes confusion. Therefore, most Chinese learners have phonological problems. For example, Chinese learners tend to shorten the English diphthongs since Chinese diphthongs are pronounced in a relatively shorter period of time. Also, some linguists also point that Mandarin Chinese speakers often add a following what is the word final consonant in English. For example, they will add a to tech to produce text. Thus, it can be found that Chinese learners have many difficulties with English phonological system. The problematic philological features Chinese learners acquired are mainly related to consonants and diphthongs. After I introduced my topic selection and give you some literature review related to my topic, I would like to describe my actual research detailed and clearly. I hope my actual research can enrich your knowledge about the Chinese students on phonology. And before the actual research, I would like to show you a place of articulation. This is to show you the differences symbols about English and Chinese. The E is shortened for the English and the M is shortened for the Mandarin. So we can see in the fractive, there are many fractives exited in English, not exiting in Chinese. And also we can see like dental one, there are much more than the English, and they are the totally different ones. So Chinese students will be easily to pronounce them incorrectly because they are confused about their pronunciation. So, actual research. What are some problematic phonological features acquired by Chinese students at a college intensive English program? This is my actual research topic. Why choose this? Pronunciation is a crucial part in language learning. In the process of learning English, Chinese learners face various different kinds of phonological problems. This research project has been designed to find what problematic phonological features Chinese students acquired and to provide participants with effective ways to improve their pronunciation. Participants who are selected from one University of Kansas State are Chinese students that participate in intensive English program. So the hypothesis of my actual research is Chinese learners may have phological problems related to consonants that do not exist in Chinese phonemes. And this study is a quantitative and experimental study I designed. And the setting and participate. The selected participants in the present study consist of 10 Chinese students at one of the universities in Kansas State. All participants were undergraduate students, 5 were female and 5 were males. They all aged from 19 to 20. 2 native English speaking teachers were invited in this study, whose teaching experience has been over 10 years. Both of them were teaching oral conversation and reading classes. Chinese students were under intermediate fluency stage of second language acquisition class and middle class of socio-economic level. And for the data collection and method of the analysis, the instruments I used to collect the data was questionnaire, recording machine, video clip, and word list. The questionnaire was designed to test students' attitude on the importance of pronunciation and their performance on pronunciation. It was a checklist type of the questionnaire. While answering the questions, participants could check one answer. There are also 4 short answer questions, and the participant needs to write their answer briefly under those questions. I would like to show you the questionnaire. So this is the sex, the age, and the number to keep their confidential. And there are total of 10 questions. How long have you learned English? It is important for me to have good English pronunciation. Students should aim for native English pronunciation. I attempt to speak with native English pronunciation. What factors have contributed to improving your English pronunciation most? Have you ever worked on improving your pronunciation on your outside the class? Do you know basic knowledge of phonology? List 5 vowels. How many consonants in English? Which part of phonology is the hardest one for you? How often do pronunciation actives are used in EFL classes? Through these simple, easy questions, I will have a brief understanding about students' awareness of the phological. And I will know how to help students better according to the questionnaire. And I would like to use a recording machine when students are read the word list. The video clip I used to show students is called Phonological Awareness Instruction by Susan Landry. It talked about the importance of the phological awareness and how to help learners to develop their phological awareness. And this video clip, I think, is very useful and helpful for not only the students but also for us, the educators, because it tells you how to help students develop the phological awareness. And in the video, Susan referred to develop the awareness when students are very young, but I think it is also important for second language learners no matter how old they are. So I would like to share this video with you together.
When a supplier of pipes, valves, and fittings for the energy industry turns to Goldman Sachs for capital.
I'm Susan Landry. I'm a professor of pediatrics at the Children's Learning Institute at the University of Texas Houston Health Science Center, and the director of the institute and a program called CIRCLE, the Center for Improving the Readiness of Children for Learning and Education. Phonological awareness is all auditory. That means children are listening, hearing sounds, and then trying to play with manipulating those sounds. For example, rhyming, cat, bat, hat. That would be a beginning area of phonological awareness for a young child to be exposed to. It's different from phonics in that it's not linked to the written word, so that a child is really just learning at this point to hear and pay attention to sounds and be able to manipulate those sounds themselves. The term phonological awareness is very descriptive of what's going on. Young children are becoming very aware of sounds, and we take that for granted. Phonological awareness for most adults is sort of second nature. You hear sounds, you can make the first sound of a word, but for a young child, listening for the first sound of a word and separating it from the second part of the word, like sidewalk or eyed, and putting those back together, that's a very new thing for them, a new activity to get involved in. We're learning that phonological awareness is one of the most critical things a child needs to be exposed to, along with language, building activities, and print knowledge or print awareness activities to prepare them to be successful to learn to read. And it's important because they are beginning to sensitize themselves, learn to hear those sounds. And reading is about making sense of written words on the page and being able to translate a written word into sounds. So this is that beginning piece where the child starts to pay attention to the fact that there are different sounds, that words are made up of different sounds before they get to that symbolic stage of seeing printed words and having to put that together with the sounds those printed words make. We are learning from an analysis and reading of all of the research that has been conducted from the 1920s to present, that phonological awareness is one of the key predictors of reading success in school if it occurs in the early childhood period. There was a period of time not too long ago when some of the people in the field worried about exposing young children to these sorts of experiences. But I think we've made great strides in the field in understanding it can be done in playful ways, that children do learn it. They do, when they're exposed to it, they soak it up like sponges. They have fun with it. And it really helps their ability to learn to read. We know that there are stages of learning or a continuum of skills in the area of phonological awareness development. I often refer to a chart that shows us one sort of way of illustrating that continuum. The early stages that may be occurring at the beginning of that pre-K year are things like children playing with rhyming, hearing that the ends of words sound the same, segmenting sentences into words, segmenting words into syllables. But you want to see that in that classroom, not too, late in the year, they're getting to more complex levels of the continuum, such as being able to blend the sounds in words or segment the sounds in words. An example would be that they're able to take, let's say, a compound word like sidewalk, and if you say to them, what does it sound like if you say sidewalk without the side? Take away side from sidewalk. And the child that can say, walk, has developed a very important aspect of phonological awareness skills. Or if you say, what happens if you put side and walk together? And they say, sidewalk. That's another important area or skill in the continuum. More complex and probably more important than the early stages of separating a sentence into words or a word into syllables, or being able to string out a string of rhyming words like hat, bat, sat, mat. Then they also get to the point where they can take a word, and if you said, say the word hat without and they can go at. Or what happens if you put and at together and they can say hat? Those are critically important aspects of the continuum. No matter where I go in the country and talk to people about phonological awareness, early childhood coordinators, coaches, professional development people, they will say those areas of phonological awareness, the blending, segmenting, onset rhyme, are most often not occurring in their pre-K classrooms. We're getting the rhyming to occur, and we're getting some segmentation of words into syllables and sentences into words, and some alliteration games are going on. But those very most important, more complex skills are not happening, maybe because teachers are not comfortable yet, and that means we need more professional development in that area, I believe. All children in the early childhood period can benefit from exposure to phonological awareness building activities, whether they have very strong language skills, for example, or not as strong. Print knowledge is stronger or less strong. We're really seeing that exposure benefits all children. This is one area where children learning English as a second language can really experience success, both in playing with sounds, learning to manipulate sounds, and building their English language skills. When you think about how phonological awareness progresses, you need to think about a couple things. One, it progresses at different rates for different children. So that makes a teacher's job challenging. Not that it isn't already challenging, but they need to be aware of which children are moving along in, let's say, one aspect of the continuum and are ready to get exposed to another. And I'm not suggesting that they have to master one aspect of the continuum until they get exposed to other aspects. Another thing that should be happening is multiple aspects of the continuum are being introduced to children. So one, different children learn at different rates. To understand how children are learning, I really think teachers need to be monitoring in very systematic ways the progress of the children individually. We highly recommend at Circle and the State Center that teachers have progress monitoring instruments that are short, that they can themselves do with individual children, that they plan to do multiple times across the year, and that give them information about where to go next with individual children. Progress monitoring instruments are not high-stakes testing instruments. They are short measures that are really just for the teacher's benefit, to help her know where to go with which children next. They need to give teachers information quickly that guides instruction. And they need to be predictive of a child learning the full range of phonological awareness skills by the end of the year. So teachers need, and schools and Head Start programs and childcare, they need to look for instruments that have good reliability and validity data associated with them. One thing we're learning is small groups of children in short, highly targeted activities, instructional activities, can be one of the most effective ways to help children learn this skill. You want a small group so you can really engage each child actively, so every child gets a turn and they get to say things and hear things and practice things with the teacher and the other children. It's a time when the teacher needs to really be aware that she's a model for the children in terms of how she says the sounds. And again, that comes from good professional development training, so that she is modeling the sounds correctly, so that the children have a chance to learn them from a good model. You want phonological awareness activities embedded into other aspects of their learning, like print knowledge. When they're learning about letters, it's a perfect time to also talk about sounds. When they're having a book read, when you're doing either small or large group, read aloud with the children in the classroom. Number one, they're wonderful books for highlighting sounds. I just happened to bring one that's an alphabet book. You can play with sounds and many aspects of the continuum of phonological awareness with almost any book. And teachers really need to be trained in their professional development about how to integrate phonological awareness or embed it into book reading, into snack time, into lunchtime, into lining up for going out to recess. When I think about teachers combining phonological awareness with alphabet knowledge, I think about
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me keep our presentation. So from the video, we can know that the phological awareness is very important, and to be a teacher, we need to know how to help students develop their phological awareness. And through the video, we know several ways to help students to develop their videos and to develop their phological awareness. And next, I will to talk about the word list. There are 5 words in my word list to let participants to read. They are the days, promote, have, something, and valuable. Many students will have the problem with this, so I choose the 5 words because each of them have the different points need to be emphasized. And through this, participants could be tested what phological problems they had. Each of the words has its typicals, such as the this. It is a focus on the point of, and the promote. It will be focused on the cluster consonant. And something also similar with the this. It also related to the. So this is my word list. Questionnaire will administered to the participants of the study. Prior to this, they were fully briefed on how to fill out the questionnaire. The recording machine is used to collect voice data. When participants are asked to write a word list, the data were collected and analyzed by methodology as follows. First, transcribed questionnaire data and checklist data and the note from document analysis were divided into domains. Second, within each domain, the data were reviewed several times for information that was revealing. This method was based on the Salawi from the book 2011. Next, transcribe according data and find out what phological problems those participants had, and this step was needed to review several times as well. Next, I would like to describe my procedure of the actual research. The research lasted about 2 weeks, and in the first week, students who were selected were asked to complete a written questionnaire consisting of 10 items. Students answered different forms of short answer and multiple questions. Students were asked to provide responses to 3 demographic questions: age, number, gender. The maximum estimated time that students used to complete the survey is about 15 minutes. To keep participants confidential, they used numbers instead of their names. After that, I played a video clip for logical awareness instructions. Students watching this video could develop awareness of the importance of pronunciation. Then, students had discussion in groups to talk about what kinds of phological problems they have met. After the discussion, I would like to give each participant a word list. All participants were asked to read the word list one by one, and I would like to use recording machine to collect the data. Before reading, each student needed to show me the number he belonged, so I could compare the records. Next, I taught them how to improve pronunciation using some critical incident approaches from the critical dialogue in Salawi and some strategies adapted from Sharmin. 1 week later, students were asked to complete the same questionnaire again and to read the same word list. I compared whether the students had changes as a result of their intervention, and the validity and reliability. In the research, the primary methods used to achieve internal and external validity are randomization, the use of a research design and statistical analysis that are appropriate to the types of data collected, and the questions the investigator is trying to answer. This according to the Campbell from the book to the textbook, and to assure the internal and external validity. The participants I select were randomly in different gender and majors. It could be more typical. To assure the reliability of study, I use parallel forms reliability and inter-reader reliability. And the ethical consideration. To keep participants confidential, I gave each participant a number instead of the real name to represent himself, so I could match the questionnaire and records. Both oral and written instructions directed students not to write their names or students' identification number on the questionnaire and in the records. The student's teacher was asked to not to look at the student's completed questionnaire nor listened to voice records. The teacher's teacher was asked to place the completed questionnaire and voice records into a sealed envelope and then store that developed in a secure location until which time it is sent to me. So after I conduct this research, I transcribe the data and compare the pre-inventory and the post-inventory and get some results. Pre-inventory. 80% of participants had a little awareness of the importance of phonology and a little basic knowledge of the phonology. 30% of participants would like to improve their pronunciation outside class. 60% participants believe that most important factor to improve pronunciation is living in an English-speaking country. 70% participants had problems on pronouncing this and promote, and 80% of participants had problems on pronouncing hum. Only 20% participants had problems on pronouncing valuable. Well, after the inventory, we can have found that there are clear changes occurred. 90% of participants believed it was important to have a good pronunciation. 60% of participants could pronounce this and something correctly. Only 30% of participants had problem on pronouncing hum and prompt. Proportion that attempt to speak with native-like pronunciation was changed from 40 to 80%. From the research and the result, we can know that most participants didn't develop awareness of the importance of the pronunciation at first, and most participants believe the most important factor to improve the pronunciation is staying in an English nation with no efforts. Chinese students had more phonological problems on nasal, fractive, and consonant clusters, which did not exist in Chinese phological system. And post-inventory, we can interpret that from the result is students developed a deeper recognition on the importance of pronunciation, and they understood that there are many ways can improve the pronunciation instead of only staying in English-speaking nation. Their pronunciation get improved, but still phological problem exist. So we can know that through the research, the problematic phonological features Chinese students acquire are mainly related to the nasal and dentals and the consonant clusters. Because these phological features are totally different with Chinese phological features. Though students' pronunciation performance can be improved through training, it is hard for them to achieve the pronunciation as the same as the native speakers. To establish students' awareness and basic knowledge of phonology are effective ways to improve their pronunciation. The limitation of this study is that I didn't consider other variables that may affect the result of the study. For instance, different environment may lead participants have different performance. Low anxiety environments are assumed to make students have better performance. So for the future research, I would like to focus on the environment, pay more attention on other variable elements to make the study be more precisely at the most extent. In addition, I would like to add more ways to get more information, such as interviews and checklists. And from this, based on the finding through the research, I conclude some strategies for educators to help students improve their phological problems. First, and also I think it's the most important and the most basic one, is to develop learners' phological awareness. This is really very important because from the video and from the actual research, we all know that students need to pay their attention on the phological problem first, and then they will decide to improve their pronunciation. And the second is to understand, to let learners understand they can improve their pronunciation in many ways. From the questionnaire at the first time, many students only think their pronunciation will naturally be improved if they stayed with English American students. But they have to know that with no effort, uh, their pronunciation won't be get better. So to let students understand they can improve their pronunciation in many ways, such as more practice, more connecting, or more listening. Third is reduce learners' anxiety. And the last one is adjust the phonemes not existing in Chinese phonology. This is also very important. As from the research, we know that students have better pronunciation performance on vowels than consonants. So, to be educators, we can address the phonemes that like the nasal ones or the dental ones. Okay, this is the presentation I gave about my actual research on what problematic phonological features acquired by Chinese students of English learners. From this research, I hope through this research and the presentation, I hope I give you more insight about the phological problems that Chinese students have and give you more strategies you want to help your students to develop their awareness and improve their pronunciation. I would like have a reflective and critical discussion with you together. I'm so happy if you can give me some suggestions or give me some problems, questions. I would like to explore more areas in the phological to help my students. Thank you.